Rudy Giuliani's daughter, Caroline Giuliani, has both endorsed Kamala Harris for president while also slamming her father's incredibly close, long-standing relationship with Donald Trump in an article for Vanity Fair. And it's spicy. I want to give you some of the best little tidbits. The article is, Rudy Giuliani's daughter, Trump took my dad from me. Please don't let him take our country too. So this is obviously deeply personal. She says, and she goes back to when this started. Watching my dad's life crumble since he joined forces with Trump has been extraordinarily painful, both on a personal level and because his demise feels linked to a dark force that threatens to once again consume America. Not to disregard individual accountability in the slightest, but it would be naive for us to ignore the fact that many of those closest to Trump have descended into catastrophic downward spirals. If we let Trump back into the driver's seat this fall, our country will be no exception. And she says, I'll never forget the night my dad told me he was considering becoming Trump's lawyer. She says, I ugly cried for a few minutes, then spent the next 3 hours making my vehement case to my father that he not go down this morally perilous path, voicing concerns about Trump's open racism, rampant misogyny, and total lack of empathy. And I'm sure there's a lot more that you could add in there.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
And let's pause for a second. It's got to be rough. I mean, because at the point that Rudy Giuliani starts this newfound relationship with Donald Trump, we already knew who Donald Trump was, not just like over the last 20 years. He'd already been the terrible new political guy that he was. And to see your father decide that's who I want to hitch my wagon to, just on a personal level, imagine that. And look, if you think that I'm going to be able to get through this story without thinking about how I would feel if I did something politically that caused my daughter someday to feel like she needs to write an op-ed for Vanity Fair. No, I'm not going to be capable of doing that. And I just hope that I live my life in a way that nothing like this ever needs to be written. But even if you just look at Giuliani, look at what his life was like before he hitched himself up to Trump and now. Think about it. He would still be bar certified in multiple areas. He would not owe countless millions of dollars to election workers that he'd defamed. He wouldn't have gone on this nationwide spree of losing dozens of lawsuits trying to prove the big lie. How much better off would Rudy Giuliani be? Now, sure, maybe he wouldn't have his podcast. Maybe he wouldn't be selling his Rudy coffee or whatever. But he'd have a much better relationship with his family. He'd be much more financially sound. He wouldn't be going through a contentious bankruptcy, liquidating his assets to pay off, Ruby Freeman and Shay Mott. He'd be so much better off. The family would be so much better off. And so, you could throw, he owes $300,000 to his accounting firm. He's been disbarred. He's been indicted now in multiple states. If you're out there, and if you're a MAGA person and you're considering at this late date maybe linking yourself up with Donald Trump, just bear in mind, it doesn't pay off. There's no, and that's the through line of the story we're about to talk about. There's no amount of loyalty that will save you. Rudy Giuliani is on his own, legally, financially. He gave Donald Trump everything and he has been cast aside. And for, much lower level MAGA people, the same thing can happen. And so, super tough. To go through this as a family member, and I don't know Caroline Giuliani, I don't know her politically or whatever, but I think that it's a service that she's doing, giving us this view into this difficult situation a family has had to deal with thanks to Donald Trump.